Hi, welcome to our podcast. I'm Cedar George-Parker. I'm with the Wilderness Committee. This is very important to understand that there's only one spotted owl left in all of BC. Luckily, we're here right now with one of our leading experts right now on the field who are standing up for the spotted owl and making sure that they can have a comeback. And so I'm really happy to welcome Joe Foy to the podcast, to our little series here right now. And the first question I guess I just want to ask is who are you? Why do you do this work?
Well, thanks, Cedar. It's great to be here. I've been working with the Wilderness Committee since the 80s. I was born around here and grew up in southwestern BC and really loved the outdoors through hiking around and seeing the big, beautiful forests and rivers and going fishing and all that stuff. At some point I realized that we were losing a lot because of industrial activity. And so that's what got me started, not just enjoying nature, but really seeing what was going on and thinking about what could be done to protect nature into the future.
Right there is what I really think a lot about is beautiful British Columbia is for all of our people who live here. A lot of people from all over the world come here and want to see the beauty but they don't know how it's being affected. So for example, what really got me interested in the work that you're doing is that what really hit my heart was understand there's only one spotted owl in all of BC. And just so for our viewers know, where is this? Where is this territory? Because BC is bigger than California, Oregon, and Washington put together. It's such a huge province, and it's so beautiful, the vastness and the rainforest and such huge biodiversity in such a northern place. It's important to understand, like, where is this happening?
Essentially, the lower mainland, right in the coast and interior Salish territory, is the most endangered species in all of Canada, and it's the spotted owl. When I started with the Wilderness Committee back in the late 80s, there were over 100 spotted owls in the forests around the lower mainland. So sort of from Lillooet down to the US border and from Manning Park over to Howe Sound. And now, so far as we know, there's one last wild-born spotted owl. And so it's a very important story about the impact that logging has had on our ecosystems, not only on spotted owl, on all sorts of wildlife.
That's unfortunate. I don't know if you can see. I kind of just had my mouth open, and that's So you said 100 since the 80s, right?
50 pairs of spotted owls remaining in the forest. Now, when people hear there's one spotted owl, of course you're going to say that's it for that species. Finish. How could it survive? Well, spotted owl habitat, the population actually doesn't recognize the border.
Yeah, most definitely.
Spotted owl habitat goes all the way down to Northern California. So the US, their numbers are well down too, but they have several thousand spotted owls in the US, all sort of in the coastal mountains. We're the northern end of spotted owl territory. Starting about 2007, the BC government started to capture the last adult spotted owls and raise baby spotted owls in captivity for eventual release. So there is hope that we can get this species back on the land, but to do that, we have to stop the logging of its habitat. And that's the campaign I work on now, is to try to make sure that when spotted owls are released on the land, there's actually enough habitat to support them.
How is logging directly affecting them? Why is it really affecting the spotted owl? Because there's only one left. And you mentioned logging. It seems like it's really susceptible to the area around it or its environment, it sounds like. And so maybe if you can explain that to me so I can get a better understanding of it. Seems like it's really affected by logging.
It is. And so what we're finding out is that every species that lives in this ancient forest is affected differently when the big trees get logged. The ancient forest is like a building, and that building here is 20 stories tall, 200 feet, 20 stories tall. So it has a certain kind of structure, old snags and logs. When that gets logged, when that gets clear cut, you take that big, magnificent ancient building and you collapse it down to something the height of a Christmas tree. Some species just don't make it, or they really get nailed, but they all get hit differently. Spotted owls we're finding, because we're just learning, industrial logging is fairly recent on this landscape. What happens with spotted owls is the adults seem to do fine in the areas of habitat, but when their young leave, they get picked off by predators and they starve to death in the ever-expanding clear cuts and tree plantations. So what we're finding is the tree plantations are actually big traps.
And what's a tree plantation? Just so we,
When the forest is logged around here, the next thing that happens is tree planters go out and they plant little tiny trees. So what you have happen is before logging, you had trees of all different ages, dead, snaggy trees, big canopies. When it's logged in a big clear cut, the tree planters come in and plant the plantation. They're all the same age, and so the structure is very, very different, and it remains different for many years. It takes, for that area to come back into spotted owl habitat, takes about 120 years.
Wow.
So it's very hard to grow the habitat back. You can do that, but right now it's much better just to protect it now that we know the impact that logging is having on this species and many others.
What I heard you say is a special word I just heard you say, and that's protect. And so I know a lot of the work that you're doing is to protect them, finding solutions to preserve their future. What are some things you're doing to protect them?
The federal government, the government of Canada, has a species at risk law.
Species at risk law.
Which requires them to make a plan for species that are moving towards extinction, essentially, moving towards disappearing from Canada. And so they're required to make a plan for the spotted owl. Now, there's a pushback from the logging companies, but eventually, after many years sort of delayed, they finally have a draft plan, which kind of makes sense. What's happened is the forest has been so hammered, so fragmented into these smaller pieces of habitat, it looks like no babies have made it. So what's happened is as the adults age out, the population has collapsed because we've cut the ability for the young to go out. So what the federal government has done has mapped out older second growth forests that could hit that 120 years in the next 50 years, and basically made a draft plan say, hey, let's not cut these forests, plus let's protect the remaining old forests, and so that we can kind of have a network of habitat on the ground. It'll be good for owls, it'll be good for other species, because species got to move around. One of my jobs has been to advocate that, because what's happened is the province continues to hand out logging permits on those forests, which the federal government has said is essential to bring this species back from the brink. And so we've gone to court, the Wilderness Committee, recently with Eco-Justice, pushing the federal government to issue an emergency order and take stronger control. We have worked with First Nations. The last spotted owl remaining is in the Ingnakup Nation of Spuzzum, and Spuzzum has just totally stepped up.
Awesome.
And very eloquent speaker, the leadership of Spuzzum, Chief James Hobart. So working with the federal government and advocating that this be protected. Unfortunately, the federal environment minister went to the Canadian cabinet, asked for an emergency order, and the Canadian cabinet turned them down. So BC is continuing to hand out permits to log this last habitat.
Wow, I'm sorry, I'm speechless. So we have these key players who are putting this together, and so kind of just like to simplify, is what I hear is that BC said that this is, and even other people, such activists or whatnot, people who just simply care like you, saying these are these specialized areas that they need to grow and prosper. But BC is agreeing almost, but also giving permits to the logging companies to come and log it out. That's kind of like to simplify it. That's kind of like what I hear, yeah?
And both governments, both the government of Canada and the government of British Columbia, talk like they're doing everything they can. The government of British Columbia specifically says they're doing everything they can to bring this species back, but they're not. Which is one of the things the Wilderness Committee, I think, does so well. We get out on the land and we track down this logging, We have an excellent mapping department, so we have the maps, and we go to where this permitted logging is happening.
And
Species at risk habitat like the spotted owl.
and so what I'm hearing is like, so we have these key players, Spasms, we have Wilderness Committee and what we're doing. What are some things that our viewers or other we can do to support? You know, what are some of the solutions out there, or what can we continue to do to really help the species? BC needs to be accountable.
They absolutely do, and that's the other thing I think the Wilderness Committee stands for, and that is we're not just spectators. We can make a difference through political action.
Yeah.
The Wilderness Committee has a website, wildernesscommittee.org. We have a Spotted Owl campaign page, which you can find, and all the contacts of the government representatives.
Oh, wow.
That you can contact.
So it sounds like we kind of need to be loud towards them. Like they need to hear us and say, we don't want this.
Absolutely.
We want to make sure that beautiful British Columbia stays beautiful. For our viewers out there, follow Wilderness Committee on our social medias. Go to wildernesscommittee.org and let's find those solutions together. Let's come together, Natsama, one heart, one prayer, one mind. Let's come together and let's make change. Let's make change and bring that beauty back to British Columbia. So on that, I want to thank our guest, Joe Foy, for coming here and sharing with us. I want to thank you so much. I want to raise my hands to you and say thank you for sharing your heart with us. Thank you for sharing your mind with us and your words and, you know, really giving us that hope, right? And ending with that hope and that there are solutions out there and there are ways that we could come together. Let's educate our minds and hearts and let's bring that owl back. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Cedar.
Sweet.